Welcome to the Big Sky Investor podcast and YouTube show. I am your host, Luke John Anderson, coming at you from Billings, Montana. Wanted to introduce you to the show. This is the first episode, and just wanted to do a brief introduction onto me, onto the show, and what I want to accomplish with it, and what you can expect from the show in the future. But first, I want to give a big thank you and shout out to our men and women in uniform, our first responders, and all their family members. All these people sacrifice every day for us to have better, safer communities, states, country, and world. So thank you to all of our current and former military personnel, first responders, law enforcement, firefighting, EMT, and thank you to all the families for all that you do to support these people. So, like I said, my name is Luke John Anderson. I'm from Billings, Montana. I am a business owner, entrepreneur, real estate investor, father, husband, traumatic brain injury survivor. I guess that about sums it up. Yeah, if I had to sum it up. I like to help provide value to people. And I've been blessed to be able to do that in different ways. And I'm excited to see in what other ways I can do so in the future. So my goal with this show is to help specifically people in Montana who are either investors looking to invest or just in the real estate realm in general. Other things other than real estate we'll talk about is business. I like business. So we'll talk about some business things as well, and mindset, because let's face it, our mindset dictates pretty much everything we do. So, like I said, I'm mainly creating this for some of my, neighbors or people that live in the state, some of my fellow Montanans, but I know that other people will also get value out of it, and maybe we'll expand into other areas as well. In helping people in other areas too. So that's the goal. That's the reason for this show. A little bit about me. Like I kind of named off some different titles of myself, I guess. Father and investor and those types of things. But I'm from Billings. Was born in Denver, but Billings has always been my home. Lived here pretty much my whole life, and was homeschooled all the way through. Ended up completing 2 years of college when I was, by the time I graduated high school. Did end up finishing my degree and did it right before I got married. So I'm married to my high school sweetheart, and we started dating end of my junior year of high school, I believe. And we've been married now for 6 years. And we have 3, almost 4 wonderful boys due in December. And very excited about that. We'll have 4 boys running around, all 5 and under. So we are a very busy household of boys. Can't imagine what our grocery budget's going to be in about 10 years. Whew. Anyway, I guess that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Married to my lovely wife, Anna, and both pretty much most of our family is here. Pretty much all my family is here. And we get to get that blessing of grandparents doing the child care and things like that. So this is home for me. This is a community I'm very passionate about here in Billings and in the state of Montana. I spent a lot of my childhood and adult life so far traveling the state. I've got friends and family all over the state. I love to vacation in certain places in the state. I mean, it's just Montana's a great place. And if you live here, you know that's true. Other people have already, the secret's out. Like other people are moving here, like, and buying stuff here. It's like, no, go away. I mean, yes, come here because it helps our economy, but like, we want to keep it still Montana, you know? Anyway, I went to MSUB. That's where I went to college. Despite the Bobcat on my wall, I'm a Montana State University Billings graduate. Although, yes, I do prefer the Cats over the Grizz, much to my wife's chagrin. So we have a lot of fun with that. I started working and investing in real estate and being in the real estate realm about 10 months ago, a year ago, something like that. So I'm kind of new to all of this. I'm kind of a greenhorn. And my hope was that I could just kind of document my journey here. I should have started this earlier, I think. And hopefully it'll help other people, like I said, in my community, or in the state that want to invest, or just people in general. They can see, wow, if this guy can, this crazy guy in Montana can get into investing, maybe I can do it in, you know, a better area. Because if you're not familiar with Montana and you're listening to this, we're a state where we have like 1.2 million people in the entire state, but geographically we're the fourth largest. So we're kind of spread out. And we're outnumbered by, I think the cows outnumber us 3-1, something like that. So to give you an idea of where I'm coming from. But anyway, I started not because real estate was sexy. I've never thought real estate was sexy. Quite the opposite. That actually kind of bored me. My mother was a realtor for a time. My grandfather was a realtor for a long time. And ended up getting into commercial real estate brokering and I don't know, it just never appealed to me. The money did, you know, I saw, you know, big commission checks or, you know, whatever that would, or, you know, after a big sale or something, you know, exciting like that. But it just overall never was really appealing to me. It wasn't sexy, you know, it wasn't, you know, sexy, like, you know, being like my first that I can remember, my first thing that I ever remember wanting to do was to become an astronaut policeman. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, right? My second dream job was a Navy SEAL, right? You know, Navy SEALs, that's a sexy concept right now, right? There's a lot of other things I could do. Big CEO of a company, you know, all these things. But real estate just to me just didn't cut it for me. But as you may know, as you get older, as you have different life experiences, your perspective changes. So from going from the kid who wanted to be the total badass, driving the multi-million dollar cars, living in the $10 million house and having houses, you know, having those big dreams with lots of expensive things in my life, thinking that would make me happy and that would make me cool, make me badass, right? Life changes. I got married. My priorities changed a little bit. Now I'm a husband and I need to provide for my wife. That seems a little bit more important than a Lamborghini. Not that I don't want the Lamborghini still, but my priority changed. My wife is more important than a Lamborghini. Then I started having kids. We started having kids. Now I'm providing for my children. Now we're talking about a legacy. Then the thought starts coming up of, well, is a Lamborghini, is that really a legacy? Yeah, kind of. I mean, I had a grandfather, well, I had both my grandfathers and a great uncle who never had any children, was like a grandfather to me, like a third grandfather. And all three of them were really into cars, especially one of my grandfathers, my great uncle. My great uncle actually started, he had the first Studebaker dealer. So any of you old car nuts will know what I'm talking about. He had a Studebaker dealership where he sold Studebakers and Tuckers. So those were that was his jam. He loved the Studebakers and the Tuckers, and he had a dealership here based out of Bozeman. He also sold RVs, and he started the 4x4 club and the snowmobile club. So he liked engines, things that went vroom, right? My other grandfather, he loved cars. He had, I've lost count on how many cars he owned in his life, anywhere from the Rum Runner car that he bought to the sports cars, to the trucks, to the, all that, and he was the kind of guy that, he had calculated that he had driven over 1 million miles in reverse in his lifetime. He spent a lot of time in the car. He was a real estate broker. He was also, worked for a big grocery company and spent a lot of time traveling. Anyway, then my other grandfather was a doctor. He had a Porsche for a while, and so he kind of liked cars too. So anyway, so I still like cars. Rabbit trail, sorry. But your family becomes more important. And can the cars be a legacy? Yeah, kind of. Like, I remember my grandfather's being into cars, and it's transferred to me. And hopefully I'll transfer that down to my kids. But does that passion change my life? Does that passion make my life better? Does that passion in my life help improve the quality of life of other people? No. Makes my life a lot more fun. When we get to go to a car show, or recently I got to go to the Clive Cussler Museum in Colorado to see some of his collection. I was like in Candyland, or some people like to go into museums and they get like almost emotional looking at paintings. Like, that's how I'm with old cars, and seeing, old Bentleys or, whatever. Anyway, again, rabbit trail on cars. My point is that I started realizing that the Lamborghinis and the 1967 GTO and the Mustang GT500s were not going to be a impactful enough legacy that I wanted to leave. The legacy became more important than the stuff. So spent a lot of time thinking about that. Was in a career with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and did very well, and thought I'd climb the corporate ladder and then maybe branch off and start my own business, or climb up and become the CEO of a company, make good money, and then invest in different businesses or in something, I didn't know what, something that would create more of a legacy for my family, create generational wealth. Because that's legacy. That can be a legacy. Generational wealth, especially generational passive income, that's legacy. That's going to impact my, something like that would impact my family for forever, potentially. And it's not only going to impact my family, it's going to impact all the people that we provide jobs for, or all the people that, if it was like in real estate, that we house, or the businesses, the people we serve, our customers, the people we service. Anyway, so that was my goal. And long story short, I ended up having a traumatic brain injury as a kid. And I talk about that in another podcast, in my TBI Fight podcast. You can also find it on mytbifight.com. And in that, I talk about the challenges and provide resources for people who have gone through similar things, or support for their family members, whatever is helpful. But I ended up didn't know that I had a traumatic brain injury until after I'd gotten out of college, gotten married, we'd had our first kid. I was climbing the corporate ladder, doing well at Enterprise. And all of a sudden I regressed and had this head injury that went undiagnosed for over a decade. So we've been working through that for the last several years. It's almost been 4 years next month that we've been working through that. And again, perspective changes. And now the legacy bit wasn't something that I wanted to achieve after I'd been the CEO of a company, our own companies, and I could, start thinking about it when I was in my 50s, my 40s, my 50s, my 60s, and then start thinking about my legacy. Now, coming out of that experience of regressing and having doctors tell me, and I quote, if your brain was a computer, it is either it's blue screening or about to blue screen. So now there puts some urgency behind it. Now that I've got recovered to the point where I can do things, now I have the obligation to create that legacy for my family, for my community. And I need to do it quickly, because you never know, as cliche as it sounds, you never know how much time you have. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So I need to build that now. And I need to think about it and prepare for it now. Even if I don't feel like I'm at a point where I have, arrived and created this legacy that's forever going to be around, or for the next 100 years or whatever, even if that doesn't happen until I'm in my 50s, I have to start the process now. I have to have a plan now. So, long story short, like I said, been recovering from this head injury, this relapse. Didn't work for a couple of years, had to stop the enterprise gig. Got an opportunity to be a part of a home care agency, kind of get my feet wet again. Became the managing partner in a home care agency, and started a marketing company with my sister, who was also in the car accident with me. But anyway, we started that a couple of years ago. That had been doing well. I had started another small business. I mean, I'd started to kind of dabble and play around and see what interested me, what could provide long-term stability and growth. And I had this, always, like I said, had this exposure to real estate early on. So it was kind of always in the back of my mind. But the more research I did, the more I realized that there are more millionaires and billionaires created through the industry of real estate than any other industry in the world. It's also the oldest industry in the world. Now, I know some of you might say there's one other industry that's older, but technically, everybody has always needed a place to live. Or people have always needed a plot of land, whether it was big enough for them to sleep on or big enough for a building or whatever. They've always needed space. They've always needed land, earth, right? So it's the oldest industry in the world. So it's got quite the track record. Being the son of two engineers, that helps. Even though I am not quite as analytical as my parents are, I'm not wired that way, I learned a lot from them. And they being engineers and the way that they work, they need to have as much data. They need to have a lot of data. They need to know the facts. They need to see the history, right? Real estate's got a lot of that. So things started to fall into place for me. That maybe real estate isn't sexy, but now my perspective has changed, and I really don't care about whether it's sexy or not. I need something that works. I need something that will produce, that will have results, not just for me, for my wife, for my kids, my grandkids, my great-grandkids, my great-great-grandkids, my great-great-great-grandkids, and so on. Not just them. My future nieces or nephews. Future great nieces or nephews. My friends. My wife's family. And they're just... Is this making sense? Is this making sense? I hope it is. I want to be the person in the family tree. Our descendants will look back and go, and here the buck stopped with Luke and Anna. The buck stopped here, and they focused and dedicated their life to making a life for the rest of their family. And yeah, they saw benefit from it. But the goal was to create something for generations that they will never meet. That's what I talk about with legacy. So the pieces started to align. I started to realize that I understand why people got into real estate, because real estate can create legacy. Real estate can create generational wealth. Makes sense. I had some friends that were in real estate or had started to look into real estate. I also had a guy that I had been following for a while, and actually during all my head stuff, he kind of gave me some hope. And that was Jordan Stanley Payne. We actually worked together at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. He coincidentally, he'd get promoted, and then shortly after I'd end up taking his position and then get promoted behind him. So I kind of followed him through the city to different locations, but I didn't understand what he was doing. I still had the mindset at that time that real estate was not sexy and I wasn't going to do real estate, and I didn't get it. But I saw the success he was having, and I saw how it changed him as a person and made him stronger. It made his relationship with his wife stronger, relationship with his parents stronger, and how he was creating a life for himself that he wanted. And he got the legacy concept. That was his goal. He wanted to build legacy for the people that he'll never even meet, and the people that might not even remember his name. Although just the fact that he's creating that, they will remember his name. But anyway, that's another point. Anyway, so Jordan, he runs the Multifamily Mafia podcast. And I'll probably have him on this show at some point. But I'd followed him ever since our Enterprise days. And like I said, never got it. It just went over my head. I didn't get it, what he was doing. And he did a lot of wholesaling and then got into buy and hold. And I I wasn't grasping it. And so I kind of just followed it just for like I said, the part where it made me feel good to watch what he was doing and see him have success, and to see his hard work pay off, and to do something that went against the grain a bit, because he got a lot of flack. I remember he got a lot of flack for what he did, for stepping away from his corporate job and going off and doing this real estate thing, right? So anyway, started watching him some more after I had gotten in on the home care business, and started feeling pretty good. Had done some good things with it. Obviously wasn't perfect, made some mistakes, but I was learning and growing, and felt like I was doing very good for my market. I had a lot of confirmation of that, both in my market and out. And felt like I was, wanting to, I tested this out. I wasn't sure if this was going to be a long-term thing or not. And I wanted to, test something else. I was ready to test something else and start learning about it. So I started learning more about real estate. I started looking at different people, like Bigger Pockets and the Kingdom Real Estate and Robert Kiyosaki. That was a big one. And reading books and searching online and talking with people I knew in the community that invested in real estate or around our area. And I just started teaching myself, or getting trained, I guess, on what this was all about. And that's what got me in. That's what got me in, and then it started to click and make sense. So anyway, that's my long explanation of how I decided real estate wasn't sexy, but I guess it's a good thing to be in. Anyway, didn't mean to go in for that long time, but anyway, that in a nutshell, that's it. And now that I understand better of what this is, I've done a couple of transactions, and met with people both here locally and across the country. I've started to make connections with people and learn more, and really take the mindset of a student, and do the homework that they give me, And now that I've kind of got my feet wet, I go, you know what? This makes sense. This makes sense long term. This is how you generate passive income. If I can acquire enough units, I make X amount of dollars that covers my expenses. If I have a relapse again with my head, it's okay. I'm covered. It won't sink us like it did before. So we'll talk more about that in another episode. But so now I've been formulating my investor criteria, my investor identity. That's important. You know who you are, what you want to do, what you want to invest in. Do you want to wholesale? Do you want to buy and hold? Do you want to fix and flip? Do you want to house hack? Do you want to, I don't know what you call it. Airbnb, I guess just Airbnb is what you call it. I was just listening to a couple of guys. They'll rent a room, or rent a place like an apartment or a house, and then in the rental agreement, they can Airbnb it. So they don't own the house, but they rent it. Anyway, I don't know what the technical term for that is, but that's kind of cool. Anyway, there's a lot of different things you can do. Man, a lot of different things, and it's overwhelming. For me, I've determined that I want to be primarily a buy and hold investor. I want to invest in properties that are 8 to 30 units, ideally, although I'll look at other things. Usually not less than 4 units, at least in my market, because in my market, anything, from what I have found, anything less than 4 units is typically way out of price and way overpriced and won't cash flow. But like I said, I look at anything. I've looked at anything from single family homes to trailers to 80 to actually the biggest one I've ever looked at was 102 units. Didn't work out, but you never know. So, cash flowing, they have to be cash flowing, which some people in my market kind of think I'm kind of crazy that I want something to cash flow. There's a lot of people playing the appreciation game and the equity game, where they just buy it and it breaks even, or they maybe even lose a little bit of money every month, but in the end it pays off when they resell it or pull the equity out. And that's not what I want to do. Those are elements that I take into consideration, but everything I acquire has to be cash flowing. I'd factor, and a cash flowing, what I mean by that is net income after all the expenses like management, vacancy, maintenance, taxes, any utilities, anything specific to that property. Like as an example, I guess you could say it falls under maintenance, but I would probably like in the house we live in now, I think it's about every 6 months, we have to have the main sewer line drain because there's a big old tree in our backyard, and those roots go into the clay pipe and clog it. And then all of our sinks and toilets clog up. So we have to have Roto-Rooter come out and get all that root garbage out of there. And so that the pipes can flow clear, and that's like $300-400 a pop. So that has to be taken into consideration. Something like that on this, like as an example, on this property, if I was buying something that had something similar, I'd factor that in as an expense, as an example. So anyway, they have to be net. They have to be cash flowing on a net basis. Prefer $200 per unit. If it's a bigger complex, I'll go down to $100 a unit. So like I said, like the 100 unit, I looked at, I was willing to go down to $100 a unit, but, on that one, it just someone else bought it before I could even pull an offer together. It went like that. Anyway, but, if it's a bigger unit, I'd go a little bit less, but that's my criteria. I buy in Billings, in the Billings area. I buy, and I'm open to other parts of the state in the major cities like Great Falls, Bozeman, Missoula, Butte potentially, although I kind of know somebody in Butte who and I kind of know they know that market. And right now, it's not the best buying time for what I want to do. But anyway, some of the bigger cities in Montana, and for some of the bigger complexes, I have some people who are partners with me or would want to be partners on deals that are open to other parts of the country. And so that might fit our criteria as a whole, So anyway, so that's me. That's my identity, and it's important to have that. And I'm still trying, as you can probably tell, I'm still trying to hammer that out so I can better express that to people when I talk to them. So I typically go after off-market properties. People who are like tired landlords, or maybe they've inherited a property they don't know what to do with, or maybe they don't want to put the improvements into it or up the rent or whatever. There's a value that I can provide there. So value add properties on some capacity. Anyway, so that's what I look for in properties. And what I've been doing, like I said, I'm kind of a greenhorn, so I'm still trying to understand all of it because there's so many variables. I mean, you've got the lending side, you've got, if it's on the MLS, you got that side with realtors, and you've got property management, and you've got insurance, and you've got title work, and you've got contractors, and you've got on and on and on, right? If you've ever bought a house or even looked into it, there's a lot that goes into it. So trying to understand all these different areas as best as possible. So I've been trying to make relationships with people. I've met a lot of great people in my community. Some people that a couple people that I've looked up to since I was a kid. Didn't know what they did, just knew their face and their name. They were on boards like at the YMCA and things like that. Get to meet people like that, which is a lot of fun. And really learn about their industry and see how there's ways that you can partner together. And so that's been my focus right now, is to continue to build those relationships, grow my understanding of the industry as a whole, and be as consistent as possible in finding particularly off-market properties. But if there's something on the market that meets those criteria, I'll definitely go after it. But finding those properties and that maybe necessarily don't look like a deal, but the deal can be created. I firmly, from what I've seen, and this is probably true in most markets, but especially here, there are not deals here overall. You might luck out and find a deal. You have to create it. You have to find the problem. You have to find the problem to solve. Usually that can only be done off market, but like I said, sometimes it can be done on market as well. But finding a problem, whatever that problem is, whether, like I said, inherited property, multiple heirs to the property, we want to sell it, half want cash, half want cash flow. Maybe a good candidate for owner financing or a lease option or something like that. With some money down, and the money down goes to the people that want cash. I don't know, just spitballing. Maybe one house I am looking at. So it's actually could be an up down. They're buying a bar, and they need to sell this because they need the money for the down payment on a bar. There might be an opportunity to solve that problem. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, so it's finding those properties that have problems that need to be solved so we can create a deal and that's it, I guess. That's what I'm doing right now. And I'm actually going to, I just posted, or by the time this comes out, I'll have posted an event locally for a Cash Flow 101 game, which is by Robert Kiyosaki. And that talks about how to get people out of the rat race. And it also can encourage people, depending on the way you play it, to partner together, and how people can get others free faster by partnering together. And also an investor meetup. We have an ARIA here, which is good. There's some good people there. I've met a lot of great people there. But something that's more casual, and maybe like over coffee in the morning or something like that. And so that's gonna be starting. And again, the goal is to network and create those relationships so that we can collaborate together and create these deals that are mutually beneficial, with the intent of keep buying and holding, and therefore creating a lasting legacy or generational wealth. So that's what I'm doing. That's a little bit about me. It's probably went a little bit longer than I meant it to, but I apologize. I will try and keep these episodes a little bit shorter, just for time's sake, because I know you're all busy. And what we will do is that this will be a regular show. I'll be just updating you on what I'm doing. I do have the opportunity to interview some people, like I said, so there might be some interviews, which would be really exciting. And we can talk about different things, more on the technical side of like, what is buy and hold? What is lease option? What is wholesaling? What is fix and flip? Go into those. Talk about different strategies, I guess. Also talk about different relationships, different problems, all that. So it'll be a lot of fun. I'm excited. It'll be a good experience. It'll be good for me to help me process, verbalize some things. And more importantly, hopefully it'll help you as the listener or the watcher, whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it on a podcast. Hopefully you get value out of this. And I hope I can encourage you to take the next step, to take that action, to move forward. Even if it doesn't work out, to still move forward and to move towards whatever your goal is, whether it is financial independence, financial freedom, building a legacy, generational wealth, or a Lamborghini, or being able to have pizza, enough money to have pizza every Friday night. I don't know. Whatever your goal and what your dream is, right? Just because I'm a big dreamer doesn't mean you need to dream as big as I do. I think you should, but hey, I've had those moments, some not too long ago, where it's like, my dream is to be able to make enough money consistently that I don't have to check the balance of my checking account when I want to take my wife to dinner, when I want to buy a pair of shoes for my kids, when I go to get gas in my gas tank. Yeah. So that's not fun. Trust me. Been there, done that. Anyway, so if you want to follow me on other platforms, you sure can. I'd love that. At Luke John Anderson. John is without the H. It's just Jon. So Luke Jon Anderson. S-O-N at the end. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Not very active on Twitter. I'm trying to be better about that. YouTube. And yeah. And then if you're interested in the My TBI Fight show, you can head over to mytbifight.com, get all the information there. That's on traumatic brain injuries. So if you know of anyone that might benefit from that, share that with them as well. Thank you again for joining me. Hopefully this will be beneficial for you and for me. I think it'll be a fun time. And I look forward to seeing you on the next show.